Hi, I'm Ron Kraybill, author of the Style Matters Conflict Style Inventory. Thanks for joining me. One of our major commitments from the beginning with Style Matters has been to create a tool that is easy to work with and as for trainers, and to bring it within reach for anyone who has basic group leadership or facilitation skills. Today I want to take you on an introductory tour of the resources that are available on our website for training with Style Matters. The agenda I'd like to cover will review these topics: why a conflict style inventory, why Style Matters, there are other tools out there. And then we'll look at the formats in which Style Matters is available. We'll look at choosing your role as a trainer, depending on the level of skill and experience that you have. Resources for conflict styles trainers that are available on our site. There's a number of free ones, and we'll detail those. We will not have questions from the group today, since this is a one-way webinar. Also, to be clear, this presentation is not a step-by-step outline for a workshop. For that, you would need to go to the free trainer's guides that can be downloaded from our website, and also that you'll see the links for those in one of the slides near the end of this webinar. The purpose of this is just to give you an orientation to what's available. So, why a conflict style inventory? First of all, it's engaging. I started using a conflict style inventory back in the 1980s, when, as a young conflict resolution trainer, I was beginning to do workshops in a variety of settings for organizations and also community settings. And I needed a way to get people into the topic of conflict quickly and easily, that was engaging. At the very beginning of the workshop, I didn't want to do a lot of lecture. I wanted to involve people. And I discovered that a conflict style inventory is great for that purpose. The focus is on yourself, your patterns of dealing with conflict, and it's kind of like standing in front of a mirror. You get a score that tells you something about yourself. For most people, that's a really interesting and engaging experience. So the topic itself works well. Secondly, I liked conflict style inventory training because conflict styles are easy to present. You can present simple concepts of conflict resolution in a matter of minutes, and then you can build from those and take them to a more complex level. A third reason is that conflict styles training is practical. You are working with real-life problems. You're working with patterns that people recognize in themselves. There's always stories and examples that come from the experience of people in the group. So everything that you do is practical, and people can apply whatever they learn to their own life immediately and go home from the workshop with a sense that they've come home with some new tools. Finally, it's adaptable. The concepts that you work with in conflict styles training can be taken into a wide variety of human experiences, ranging from the interpersonal to the group to the international. And to just expand on that briefly, I'd like to go to the next slide here and take a look at a pyramid of competency that I developed many years ago and have used in a wide variety of settings throughout the world. I often use this pyramid to help people locate whatever training we're going to be doing in a larger context. One of the things that you will discover very quickly if you do conflict resolution training is that although we all know a great deal about conflict at one level because we experience it across our lives, when it comes to actually having studied and given thought or practice to improving our ability in conflict resolution, most people really have never had that experience at all. So we're starting almost from zero when it comes to the concepts that we're working with. Of course, that lived experience that people have is often very big, and so part of the fun of a workshop is helping people to begin to draw on things that they already know and feel at a deep level and have never really talked about before. So conflict styles training, well, actually, let's first of all talk about the pyramid. You see at the very bottom, personal foundations of self-knowledge and integrity. All of us carry internal contradictions within ourselves. And you have probably known or lived or worked with someone who has a lot of inner tensions about the diverse parts of themselves, their diverse commitments. That can really cause a lot of difficulty for people. So we need to find ways of coming to peace to the extent that human beings can with what's within. Moving upwards, all of us live in interpersonal relationships which cause conflict from time to time. We need a variety of basic skills for resolving those differences, talking them through with people that we live and work with. Also, many of us, probably most of us, use interpersonal mediation skills at some point in our lives. We may use them to mediate between siblings in our family. We may use them in team settings if we're in business or sports or organizations. Parents certainly do a lot of interpersonal mediation between children, and it goes on and on. Those skills can be enormously valuable. Now, one of the things I want to say before going higher in this pyramid is that each of these skill levels builds on the previous one. So that, for example, as a mediation trainer, I came to see that anybody who has a lot of skill and competency at the level of interpersonal conflict resolution has a big leg up when they're mediating between other people. And the same can be said if we go higher, small group facilitation. I discovered in my own career development that the work that I had done as a mediator between individuals was enormously useful for me in facilitating in small group settings as I began to work in those. And then when I worked in large group settings, that it might involve 50 or 100 or even hundreds of people, that I used all of the skills at these lower levels in the larger group setting. We also need a small number of people in our communities who are good at bringing groups together to talk about their problems or their decisions that need to be made. And we need people who can, using all of the skills below, work in regional or political facilitation. And we need people to work between the nations of our world to reduce the chances that we actually destroy ourselves. So this is a pyramid of competency. One of the things that many of us experience is that we meet people out here in these levels. It might even be in the national political level, who are functioning at this high level, supposedly doing some kind of leadership at this level, who are actually really clumsy or incompetent at the lower levels. And it's one of the reasons why our societies are in such difficulty, because we have never taken seriously the preparation of human beings with these layers of competency that are required if we're going to do effective conflict resolution at these higher levels. Can you imagine how different the world would be if we would systematically say we're going to invest in the preparation of people to resolve conflict? We're going to make sure everyone gets to do some work at this level, and everyone gets to do some work in school, perhaps in interpersonal conflict resolution. A smaller number perhaps will get, but still a very large number will get some basic mediation skills. Just take it up through, it really would change everything about the world that we live in. Now, let's locate conflict styles on this pyramid. I would say that they're at these two lower levels. They help us to understand our own patterns of functioning, and they give us a great deal of insight about how to manage ourselves when we're in conflict with others, as well as how to cope with the conflict styles of those that we're working with. But although the training itself focuses at this level, the implications can easily be extended to all levels of the pyramid. And the basic ideas that we introduce in conflict styles training can be applied, many of them, at these upper levels as well. So I have long considered it one of those tools that you can use in almost all settings at some point in the training that you're doing. Why style matters? We developed Style Matters basically in the context of frustrating experience with other conflict style inventories. I had worked for some time with the Thomas Kilmann instrument, which is widely used and quite a good one for certain purposes. But I began to get complaints, or actually from the very beginning, I recognized that there were certain difficulties. We found that a certain percentage of people in a workshop just really did not like that inventory. And the reason for it is that that inventory has been optimized for psychometric purposes. To the authors believe that they get a more accurate picture of how people actually function in the way that they have worded the questions. So it's a forced choice question, and I found that a percentage of users in almost all the workshops that I led really found the forced choice format of questions very limiting and frustrating, to such an extent that some really just didn't feel that they can take it seriously. One of the commitments that we made in developing Style Matters was to develop something that is optimized for learning rather than psychometric purposes. We did do psychometric testing for Style Matters, and we adjusted wording to get things to a level of acceptable statistics for psychometric purposes. But it has not been the overriding principle that has guided our formation. Our purpose is to create something that can be done very quickly and easily in group settings, that users find fits who they are, and that introduces you to the topic of conflict resolution, and then you take it deeper in the direction that you want to. Another concern that we had in developing Style Matters was for it to be suitable for people from a variety of cultural backgrounds. Most of the testing instruments that are on the market, including there's one exception in conflict styles that is focused specifically on cross-cultural conflict. But if you look at instruments that are available to train generally on the topic of conflict resolution, there's no other instrument out there that has the ability to adapt to the cultural background of the users. We added a simple device that gives users an opportunity to choose the format of the questions that they work with, that makes it much more comfortable for people from a wide variety of cultural backgrounds. There's more information about that on our website. We also are offering a webinar on that topic for those who want to do further study of that. But that feature is there in a very low-key way, and we think it's quite beneficial for certain trainers. Style Matters has flexible delivery options. We'll look at those in a couple of minutes. Basically, paper, PDF, and digital. It's priced for broad use. We have held it as a major commitment from the beginning with Style Matters to make the inventory accessible to people regardless of their financial background. We actually have a commitment to people. If you can't afford our listed price, talk to us. Let us know your circumstances. We do provide free access to the inventory for a small number of groups each year. Prisoners, people working in situations of great poverty, and we want your group to be able to afford it. So we think that it's priced at a level that is within reach for the vast majority of our users, but that is a commitment that we care about. Finally, we do support hands-on upgrades and adaptation of the inventory to a variety of settings, and we're happy to talk with you about that either in terms of the actual content or the delivery mechanisms if that's of use to you. Formats, we have the traditional print format. We have also taken the print format and put it in a PDF version so that you buy the PDF, and when you print it out, it looks exactly like the print version on your printout. And then you can photocopy the PDF and for as many people as you want and pay us on a per user basis. And finally, over the last several years, we have put a lot of effort into developing an online version which provides a detailed score report that is keyed to the numbers of users and provides an enormous amount of very targeted information for the user. By the way, there is more information on these formats at this link here on the left of the screen. Now, I'm going to turn for the next section to working specifically with the online version. So this is the digital version of the inventory. I consider it the premium version of Style Matters because there's so much information that is made available to the user. There's an infographic at this link where you can go and see the what I'm going to talk you through in the next minute or two, and that gives you a visual image of the options. You need to, the setting here is that as a trainer you have paid for your users in advance to take the conflict style inventory, and you need to get them to the inventory. There's two different ways. The one is to send them a coupon code. So in this case, we give you a coupon code. You send that by email to your users, and you say, please go to the website and log in there at this web address and enter your name and your email and this coupon code, and you'll then be able to take the inventory for free. That option is attractive for you as a trainer because it's easy. You don't have to do anything other than write that email and send it to your users, and they do everything else. However, we developed another pathway to the inventory because there are many trainers who have a different set of concerns. Some trainers want to be able to track who has used the inventory and who has not. They want to actually manage the user experience, and they want to make things as easy as possible for their users. So the dashboard option is different. In this case, as a trainer, you go to a dashboard that we set up for you on our website. and you can enter the name. You enter the names of your users there and their email address. And after and that takes, by the way, about a minute per user is the estimated time you will need to invest if you use the dashboard option. The advantage of that additional effort is that you do have a lot more control over what happens. You can, with one click, send an email, for example, with the registration information to your users. And your users don't have to do anything other than click on an image in the email. They don't have to enter their address on our website. They don't have to enter their name and address and coupon code. They just click on the link, and they are taken straight away to our site, to the front page of the inventory, and they're all logged in. So it does make things easier for you, and you can then track when users have taken the inventory. You can see their score report. You can print out the score reports, and you do have more control over the experience. Both options, by the way, do automatically send a score report to the user. They get it on their screen. They also get an email address, get an emailed score report. So they get a copy of that score report sent to them. With the dashboard, you can control that. You can delay the delivery of the score report if you want that. What role will you take as a trainer? There's a range of roles here, ranging on the left here from facilitator. Actually, let's start on the right side because that's more obvious. This assumes that you know quite a lot about style matters and about interpreting scores, and you're going to be speaking as a bit of an expert as a trainer. But there are many people working with style matters who aren't at that level of experience yet as trainers. And there are two other roles here that many of our trainers are comfortable in. The first is as a facilitator. In this role, you're not really thinking of yourself as any kind of an expert on style matters. You are a group leader, and you're using some kind of pre-existing skills that you have to lead this experience. And the experience is basically to guide the group through a process of reflection and learning on their score report. Or it could be done without the score, the digital score report. It could also be the numbers in there if they're taking the print version. So what it requires of you is to take the inventory and study your own scores. That's important so that you have the experience as an insider, having taken the inventory and you've thought through those numbers for yourself. And then create a sequence for reflection and discussion. What resources will you have for the reflection, for the preparation for that? We'll look at those in a minute. That's on the next page here. There's trainer's guides that we'll look at. But you're drawing on those resources to design some exercises for your users to reflect on. After a facilitator has done this a time or two, most facilitators get comfortable with a number of basic concepts and begin to present some concepts directly to the group. Okay, so your role as presenter is to present key concepts and again to facilitate reflection and discussion. What does this require of you? To study your own scores, to create a sequence for reflection and discussion, same as the facilitator, and then to prepare inputs on selected topics. You might start with one basic topic like, what is the logic underlying the conflict styles framework? It might be just a 5-minute presentation. And you make that presentation and then you lead the group through a series of discussions, probably in small group and large group settings, and those exercises would be based on suggestions that you will see in the trainer's guide. The expert role, the main thing that's present here that takes some time to develop expertise in is the ability to interpret scores for users. This is really not so necessary, particularly if you are using the online version. More necessary if you're using the print version, because the print version doesn't really tell people a great deal about interpreting their numbers. The online version tells a lot about interpreting numbers. So with the online version, you don't need to do a lot of this. Nevertheless, as a trainer, even when I'm working with the online version, I like to take scores from 2, 3, 4 people, have them call them out, I write them on the board, and then I make some comments about these scores and what someone who gets scores like that might learn about themselves. Doing that takes some practice, going through the other training inputs several times, and then you'll be ready to do that yourself if you want to. Finally, resources for trainers. On the left side here are the key ones. The first one is the most important by a long shot. It's the Trainer's Guide to Successful Conflict Styles Workshops. It's a 40-page guide that I've developed in more than a dozen editions over many years. And it goes through a workshop from beginning to end in great detail with suggestions of what you might say as a trainer, and then questions for discussion in the group and small group discussion. So it really gives you everything that you need right there. However, I wrote it before we did the digital version, and so the next guide, the Trainer's Guide to Style Matters Online, is much shorter. It's just 10 pages. It assumes that you have access to this first one, but adds an outline for how to do that in around using the digital score report as a basis of a workshop. A third resource that many trainers use is the Intro to Conflict Styles, which is a visual presentation in PowerPoint or Prezi that introduces the conflict styles. You can move through that fairly quickly. It's a great way to start a workshop. It's free on our site. You can, if you have web access, you don't have to pay for it. You can just bring it up on your screen, or you can purchase it for offline use if you need to. Here on the right side are several other resources that you might want to take a look at. This, by the way, this webinar and the slides are available by clicking here. And if you download that version, then the links in this slideshow are clickable. So anywhere there's a green link, you'll be able to click on it, and it will take your computer browser automatically to that link. So that may be useful for some settings. This is a blog that I've written for trainers and conflict style people who have taken the inventory. Here's an annotated bibliography with a lot of links to many different resources on the web. Here's a sample score report from the online version if you want to take a peek at that. It's been improved a bit since that version was posted. That's it. Thanks for joining us. We are beginning to offer more webinars online. You can get those live, or we will gradually be putting them into videos that you can click and look at on your own time, like this one. Thanks for joining us.